Hi everyone. So today's topic will be how, or like proving why being embarrassed is a pretty good thing in order to achieve your goals, mainly based on my experience of the last 6 months. That is since I started posting anything on YouTube and now TikTok. Don't ask me why. And I felt like it made a pretty good argument overall because a lot of people, they seem to have goals, but they're kind of embarrassed to chase them or talk about them out loud. And I decided, well, that was me 6 months ago, and we kind of changed. So maybe looking back at it, that's not too bad. And the whole thing essentially started when, like the posting thing, started when I signed up to a university course at my university for, I think, being prepared as a founder, something around that tone. And the goal was to, within 6 weeks, develop the fundamentals of a growth mindset. The growth mindset frameworks comes from an American psychologist called Carol Dweck. Carol Dweck, I think that's her name. And what she's proposing in her book and in all of her works is that there are fundamentally two types of frameworks people can adopt. One is the fixed mindset, which, for instance, believes that intelligence is fixed, that certain skills cannot be taught, that you are, or like you have an innate ability that cannot be changed. So they are very deterministic in that way. That's number one. Second one is the growth mindset. These are people who, for instance, believe that the more effort you put into something, the better you get at it, right? So essentially the typical story of getting better by repetition. And they, for instance, also believe that intelligence is not fixed, that you can increase your intelligence by consuming, I don't know, books, online courses, doing a lot of things to develop your intelligence. These two frameworks are, I don't want to say a battle, because we tend to have both of these frameworks, but they give you a pretty good picture on different types of people that you will meet and that you might encounter in your life. Goes for you as well, by the way. And the beauty in the growth mindset is that it can be developed. So the whole goal of this course was to develop the positive attributes of a growth mindset, because we also sometimes tend to think we cannot be suited for certain things simply because we are not good at them. That's a fixed mindset thought, and that's not necessarily true. We just haven't been able to spend a lot of time into the things that we want to be good at. So now that we have discussed essentially these two types, a lot of things will probably clear up. So that was the course. And it was also a bit encouraging in terms of trying new things, right? Build maybe a product, develop a skill for 6 weeks. 6 weeks is a relatively short time, but as a student, I think you have you have enough time to develop something new in 6 weeks. And I kind of developed two things, right? One came by accident. So the first one was Theoptera, the biomedical research kind of PI, advisor, PhD helper, what you want to call it. I'll link it down below. I'll probably talk about it next week or so, like more in detail on how I built it, why. But now it's kind of irrelevant. So I built this. And the second thing that came, I think, in the last weeks of this course was that I decided to, talk about things on the internet. And so it just happened that at that time I wouldn't say feeling pretty good about the progress I made in that course, but I felt, I guess, I had an average feeling. I'm sure you cannot say that, but I think you get what I said. And I decided, okay, it seems like I didn't challenge myself enough. So let me try something that isn't, one, expected of me to do, and two, doesn't really fit my character at all. And so I sat down and I guess I made a 6-minute video, unedited, without subtitles, with a lot of fill words, talking about why I started this channel. And I intended to go only for 30 days. So I did that. And somehow I kind of enjoyed talking to the camera, right? Like sometimes the comments that I found under my videos, they are very insightful. And I'm like, whoa, kind of need to think about that one. And so I was like, well, why not, keep going? And the feeling of embarrassment at that time kind of faded. And here's the thing, right? Statistically speaking, and also by the numbers, for instance, I'm not able to monetize that whole channel, which personally I don't mind, right? Second thing is a lot of channels are outperforming what I'm doing, which again, I don't mind because I don't think we're talking about the same things. And I don't like to do social commentary on TikTok trends. That's not my field. And so when the embarrassment faded away, I kind of realized also one thing: no one knows that I'm doing this. So no one asked, no one that I know knows that I'm doing this. And it's not a big deal. it's really not a big deal, right? And I think one of the positive things that also occurred during these 30 days is that I needed to structure my arguments and thoughts. And I needed to also explore, for instance, how to edit videos, right? Like I'm not a pro at that, but overall, you kind of need to look into that. And while my videos are neither top notch nor really consistent, they still appear. And I think that was the most important thing for me, to realize that maybe content creation can be a thing of mine, but not just hugely successful, which I don't know. Like I can't seem to mind that actually. Anyways, and also I'm looking at the site because I wrote a blog about that, which I will link down below. And I was also thinking about the following. So when the barrier to embarrassment is lowered, what can I do? Because maybe to give you a few anecdotes, I started working when I was 16, 17, and I had the genius idea to apply for a Berlin-based startup. So I was one of the youngest and also kind of like the only woman in there. So you can probably imagine, hey, I kind of felt a bit overwhelmed, which technically was true. And at that time, I really didn't have any self-confidence in my skills because I had no skills, right? I never worked with CRMs. Those are customer relation management softwares like HubSpot and whatever you can use. I never used them, right? I actually had to cold call a lot of people. Never did that either. And, use my English skills to communicate. These were things I never did, but somehow, it kind of looks special if you do it. Again, I was kind of embarrassed that over the whole internship, I was more or less performing average because I'm not quite sure the learning curve at that time when I was 16, 17, it was longer than now. Like I can pick up a few skills, I think a bit faster than 2 years ago. But at that time I was just struggling and stuff, which it was not a bad thing because everybody on the team kind of knew, well, she's new, she's trying the internship. It's not a bad thing to fail, which again, I appreciated that. And so every time I went either into a new startup internship or research internship, it was the same way. I would probably screw up for the first 2 weeks, learn the things, and then advance. And I don't mind it too much now. Like in retrospect, it's not that bad to fail. It's people won't mind, right? People will not mind if you fail, specifically if you're young and you're still exploring things that you have not actually seen ever. And I also realized a lot of people, if you can put your goals into words / desires into words, they will help you. People are, I think, coded to help you in any way they can if you can articulate why you're doing these things. And that is essentially what my blog's all about. So the thesis I had is the following. You can envision a future, a goal that you want to achieve in 10 years. I feel like when you go and think about what you want to achieve in 10 years, that everything becomes realistic somehow. Things to achieve in a year are more or less, how do I say that, a bit exaggerated, right? You cannot do a lot of things in a year, but because we're talking about 10 years, you have the compound effect. So my standpoint is the following. If you are embarrassed, one, that is a very good thing because you're advancing towards your goal, but you need a goal formulated, right? So my goal, for instance, at that time was to get into an American university, which I didn't get into because financial aid kind of sucks. But I did a lot of things that most of my peers did not do in the German curriculum because you are not encouraged to do these things. So I did that. And after a while, I formulated my goal, which is, it doesn't sound romantic, right? It's just that I want to play a role in stem cell research that can be used for personalized medicine. Because there is now research supporting the following idea, namely that when you take, for instance, skin cells, you are able to program them with transcription factors into pluripotent stem cells. Those are stem cells that can take a few forms. And for instance, assume you have a patient with cancer, skin cancer, maybe melanoma, and you figure out, okay, this patient is not responding to any treatments that I have. What will I do? You can experiment on the skin cells that you get from him by that process of reversing them back into stem cells and then reversing them back into essentially cells with similar environments as those cells in melanoma. You can do that. And what you can also do is you can stimulate a whole environment with metabolisms, with different pathways, and you can do that, which is amazing, right? So I believe with this framework of take a cell, go back to stem cell, and then reprogram it into the cell that you want to experiment on, you can do so much more. And maybe even personalized medicine is not a faraway dream. Now, there's always a risk that I'm wrong, but at that point, within 10 years, I will know whether this goal is either achievable or not. So that's my goal. I formulated this 1 or 2 years ago. And I feel like a lot of things boil down to achieving the goal, namely a desire that manifests by repetitive thinking about your goal. What this essentially means is the more you think about what you want to do, right? It could be intuition, it could be writing down the things. That is essentially your goal. You need to work out what you want to do, and preferably without the help of AI. Like, you will sit down and think, that's what I want to do. Intuition is also fine. There is maybe something quite divine about your intuition, with essentially a knowledge that you cannot replicate until you follow your intuition. So do that. Second thing, you need to have a will to try something new, maybe every few months, in order to achieve your desired X. We will call it X as a variable because I don't know what you want to do. Third point is a determination that borders on obsession for desire X. That is, you need to be ruthless. You need to embarrass yourself over and over again until you get what you want. A lot of people that made pretty good content, I guess, started out the same way. Fourth and the last thing, all other things that come in between that make up life as an addition can only be discovered until after chasing desire X ruthlessly. So all the things that maybe make up your life, the highs, the lows, the achievements, the disappointments, they can come only when you start doing new things. So when you're set every day before a screen and you're not interacting, for instance, with technology to achieve your goal, then you're not advancing. And maybe that is the whole dilemma, I think, of Gen Z, that unfortunately we don't have good starting conditions, and we are also confronted with technology that doesn't really encourage us, and thus we are not advancing. I think this deserves maybe another topic. And so yeah, I'm still reading what I wrote yesterday. So essentially, with these 4 frameworks, or like 4 thesis types in mind, you can and you will probably achieve your goals. They might take you a few years, which is fine. There is nothing wrong with taking a bit longer than the rest to achieve your goals. Besides, you don't know what the rest is doing. You don't know what goals your friends have, because sometimes it's better to not speak out about your goals when you are pretty insecure about it and you have not yet learned the skills to preach about it, to talk about it. So maybe after all this time of developing a growth mindset, of doing kind of like this video series, of also growing kind of like my LinkedIn presence, I came to the following conclusion. Let me read it to you. Why not make myself visible? Why not chase my desire X ruthlessly, as I have preached? Why not use social media to build myself a community of people I can talk and research with in the near future while improving my approach to ideas and explanations? And I feel like I am on a certain track to achieve that, but then again, it will take years. And I feel like I have made my peace with that. I will not see real results until year 2 or 3, like in terms of, let's think about content, until year 2 or 3, and maybe in terms of research until year 6. That is something I don't mind, because here's the thing, you can be unrealistic with your goals, but you need to be quite realistic with the milestones that you hit, because the compounding effect comes late. It's like a curve, and then one day it kind of like jumps. And I'm not at the jumping position. I'm more like here, which again is fine, because time will pass. Might as well use it in a way that makes me happy and lets me achieve my goals. So if you want to read the blog post, I have it down below. Feel free to comment, also comment on the video. I will try to get back to you as fast as I can. And I guess that's it. I hope you kind of feel inspired to do the following. Maybe write down your goals. Think about what you want to achieve in 10 years, because everything that can be achieved in a decade is achievable. Think about how you want to structure your milestones, and maybe even start doing things. Take it from me. Obviously, my videos are still kind of lacking in quality, but I have a feeling that some people don't mind, and if they don't want to watch it, that's also fine. But some people, they will stick to your side and they will help you out eventually. And maybe one day you can do that too, right? Help people out based on the things that you did. And that can be a real, like kind of like a nice experience in itself. So yeah, that's it. See you next week.